The fact that you just clicked on this video right now just blesses my heart, because here's what that means is that you're interested. And again, the most important interest that you could have in what it is that I'm doing, that you're doing with me, that we're doing together, is praying that we would continue to go to the Father and seek his will. There's this scripture in Deuteronomy that I shared with my restorative event that I'm like, look, I'm right along there with Joshua. And Joshua says, look, if you're not going with us in this place, we don't want to go. I don't want to go if you're not in that. And sorry, it's not Joshua, it's Deuteronomy. So I'll link it in the description box of this video on YouTube. I'll put the scripture reference in there. But here's what I need to do. So some of you already know this. I hired a person who is a professional in nonprofit management, and she, as a ministry to me outside of her normal job, she agreed that she would do what we call a grant study. And in that grant study, what she was doing is she was looking for different places that would offer me grants to go into recovery centers and maybe even after school programs to basically teach people about how to use this modality of yoga to connect with God in their heart, soul, mind, and strength. One of the amazing things that came out of that is she really nudged me and pushed me to find a purpose statement or a mission statement. And so I have created that. And it is that I am teaching people how to connect with their healing creator in their heart, soul, mind, and strength. So we're kind of tweaking those words a little bit. But essentially it's through the practice of yoga, how to connect through the practice of yoga with their heart, soul, mind, and strength to their healing creator. Unfortunately, what we found is that there's not a ton of grants out there for folks like me who are LLC, who are trying to use yoga as a modality. She was very clear with me. She said, look, yoga is not really a thing in that field of helping people. There's Christianity, there's neighborhood outreach, there's all that stuff, but yoga is not really a thing. However, if you can become a nonprofit, the gates open wide, so to speak. There's a ton of grants out there for nonprofits. And this is not the first time that the Lord has nudged me to create a nonprofit. I remember when I was going through some conversations with folks on the board of Christians practicing yoga. And one of the things that they realized and they discovered is they need to create a nonprofit. And so interestingly, I just came across some notes from that, 3 years ago, I think, is when they created the nonprofit of CPY, Christians Practicing Yoga, as some of you may know it. But again, this is not a new topic for me. This is something that I have been wrestling with and kind of visiting and checking out for a while. So here are the nuts and bolts of that. I used to teach for Neil Kennedy Recovery Center. Neil Kennedy had a grant to pay for yoga as a treatment offering, as one of their groups. Medicaid and insurance do not pay for yoga. They pay for mindfulness, they pay for things like that. But the nuts and bolts of it is that unless you have a grant, you can't, quote unquote, teach yoga. So since I was released from Neil Kennedy, I've obviously had places that have called me in the past to say, hey, will you come and do yoga with us? And unfortunately, I've had to say no because I'm already teaching 12 classes a week and I just can't. But now, needless to say, God has given me some time. So I'm looking for a place that I can kind of get my roots in and teach yoga again, now that Neil Kennedy has discontinued their relationship with me based upon my vaccination status. Some of you may have read that already, or you may have seen that in my last video. But essentially the bottom line is that I cannot, or I could, but it'd be a lot easier for me to get a grant as a nonprofit. In order to become a nonprofit, one has to go through a lot of paperwork, some fundraising, things like that. So that's what I'm doing. I have to create a board. I have to do some fundraising. Typical nonprofit, if you're gonna a startup cost is anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. And even with the money that I already hired this friend of mine to do the grant searching or the grant report that she offered me, I've already spent $400 on that. I'm in the hole. And I've had a couple of you that have donated. Thank you so much. I want you to know I'm being super, super responsible with those. But if you're someone who wants to support me in this, there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. If you want to send me a donation, please do so through a format or a platform that is not going to charge you a fee and is not going to charge me a fee. Venmo is getting super sneaky. Please don't use Venmo if you don't have to. Cash App or Zelle are good options, and I'll put those links in the description of this. I'm asking you to support me, obviously, in prayer. It's like I said from the get-go, your prayer and your understanding that I'm just looking to see the Lord, and I don't want to go further without him. I am taking heart. I'm putting my courage in the things that he's placed within my soul to teach this modality, but I don't want to go anywhere without him. So your prayer is huge. I have a couple of raffles that I'm doing. I've got some of my favorite things that I'm raffling off. I've also been graciously invited to participate in a fundraiser in Pennsylvania next month. That's March 11th. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really honored and privileged because that may be a huge beneficial fundraiser for me. But all that to be said, the first order of business is to raise funds, because the outlook is that in the forward place, I'm going to be serving a clientele and a community that doesn't have funds to pay for it. In order to do that, I need grants. In order to do that, I need a nonprofit. In order to get a nonprofit going, I need funds. So that's kind of the backward step of that. And if you're so interested in partnering with me on this, I'm really, really grateful. And again, pray or just continue to come to my classes. Like I've said to you guys before, I will continue to do this practice as long as I have breath, because it's super beneficial for me. It's a method that I use in order to connect with the Lord. And so I will continue to do this publicly as long as y'all keep showing up. Yeah, I said y'all. Cultural appropriation. Thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to continuing to partner with you.